All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Bonita Owens. You are watching Ask the Expert. And today we have a very special guest who is a NABO member, Alison DePaoli. She is a business consultant working with employers who know they have a healthcare problem. And this is going to be so important because we're going to talk about healthcare for micro businesses. As the daughter and granddaughter of entrepreneurs, manufacturers, car and heavy equipment dealers, and insurance, Alison had a front row seat on what it takes to run a business and manage risk. She routinely advises employers on controlling their healthcare budgets and turning their benefit plans into recruiting and retention magnets. She is also a sought after speaker and podcast guest. Alison is the host of Raising the Bar with Alison DePaoli, a podcast designed to help CEOs and executive teams learn and leverage what their peers are doing successfully into their own businesses. She is a producer. She is a producer of the new documentary, It's Not Persona, It's Just Healthcare, is a contributing author to the Amazon bestseller Breaking Through the Status Quo, and is a regular contributor to employee benefit news. She has been recognized as a top woman in advising by Benefits Pro magazine, the most innovative employee benefits consultant, and the advisor of the year. So, as I told you, she's a very special guest. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alison. And I'm just looking forward to the nuggets that you have to share for our business owners.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be with you today.
Okay, so let's get right into it. I want to first learn more about you and how did you get into the business of consulting and helping businesses with healthcare? Why did you choose that lane?
So my family owned, in one of their serial entrepreneur activities, an employee benefits consulting firm in South Florida. And I moved to Texas from South Florida. And when I moved to Texas, I pivoted into another side of the employee benefits space. And about 15 years later, I was looking around at some really lovely clients going, I could fix that. I could fix that. Why is this happening to you? We could do it this way, and then we wouldn't have this problem. So then at some point, I just decided to go do that.
Okay.
So we have a host of variety of clients, like all employee benefits consultants. And, some of them are most concerned about making sure that there's 100% coverage for their employees. Some are very cost sensitive, and everything in between. So, I think it's important for a health plan to perform the way an employer wants it to perform, not necessarily the way John Smith down the street wants it to perform.
Okay, very good, because we really think that, we have to just duplicate something that we see someone else doing, right? So let me make a correction. Alison is a former member and former past president of NABO, right? Of our San Antonio chapter. Yes. And when were you a president?
2010.
2010.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. Okay. So so we're going to get into, first off, educating business owners about what their responsibility is when it comes to healthcare coverage. So what do business owners need to know in terms of regulations, right? Laws, state, federal laws concerning when an employer has to provide, or what's their responsibility in providing healthcare coverage?
So technically, you don't have to offer health insurance coverage until you have 50 or more full-time equivalent employees.
Okay.
The reality is, for most employers, if they want to recruit and retain the most talented people to run their business, they do need to offer benefits. And for different employers, that can look a little bit different. But even smaller 5, 8, 10, 15, 20 life companies, what we found is that when they don't offer benefits, they don't necessarily get the people that they want into their organizations, or they can't keep the ones that they want in their organizations, because benefits are very, very important to people and very personal.
For sure, for sure. And I love how you talk about it from a talent, right, perspective. If you want to get the best talent, right, into your organization, yeah, that can make or break whether someone wants to work for an organization, for sure. Okay, so in that, so it's not required until 50 or more, but so many business owners, right, feel like right, yes, and think, how am I going to be able to afford this if I'm under 50 employees? So tell me about what is the most important things for business owners, micro businesses, to consider when searching for healthcare plans, or if they can do it or not.
Sure. So I think the most important thing to think about is, if you're going to offer health insurance, what kind? And are you going to be traditional, fully insured? Are you willing to accept a little bit more risk? Are you going to go in a completely non-traditional environment? And what does that mean for your team? So, and I think it's important to weave into that healthcare is not health insurance. Healthcare is healthcare, and health insurance is how you pay for large ticket items. And because we're paying for so many small ticket items in a health plan, the cost is growing and growing and growing. And the Affordable Care Act gave us the medical loss ratio. So depending on your size, either 80 or 85 cents of every dollar that you pay for health insurance needs to go to pay claims. And in theory, that's good, right? You want premium going to pay claims. The unintended consequence of that is that the only way a health insurance company can grow is to allow the claims cost to grow, because otherwise their piece of the pie can never get any better. So no insurance company is looking out for your costs, right? It is your obligation as the employer to look out for your costs. No insurance company is going to do that for you.
Okay. Wow. I learned something new. So, okay. So tell us more about that then. So how would a small business, how would they, an owner, right, look at that and mitigate that? How would they go about doing that? What do they need to start? Where would they start?
So there's a couple of sort of entree points here. So the first thing that I think is very important is to choose an advisor that shares a philosophy with you, and understands what it is that you need. Because when you're under 50, particularly in the fully insured space, the rate is the rate is the rate. It is only what you do with that matters, right? So for a 10 life case that's fully insured, any broker can bring you the rates. They're going to be the same. But what do? Maybe your employee base is mostly women with young children. Well, have you thought about how you can design a plan using some other resources to get them in urgent care on demand, right? So either in person or on the phone on demand, right? Every day. Because what happens to mothers with small children? Somebody has pink eye, somebody has the flu, somebody shoves something up their nose, right? And those things need to be addressed now. So if you can help that person get to a doctor and pay as little as possible, you have controlled your costs, which seems oxymoronic, and we can talk about that. And you have a benefit that your employee values, and therefore they value you more. Have you had some plan increases that are hard to digest? You can't necessarily pick up the premium. You don't want to pass it on to your employees. Well, maybe you can use a health reimbursement strategy. And a health reimbursement account has been around for, I don't know, 25 years. And I don't think that small employers use them enough. We use those to increase the deductible on the plan so that the employer pays less premium. And then we reimburse a certain amount of that deductible back to an employee if they spend it. So it is a way for a smaller employer to take a tiny, tiny little bit of risk and lower their fixed costs. And then maybe they need to help somebody pay for their deductible. Maybe nobody's using it that year. So it's a way that you're taking a rate and you're just bending it to work a little bit better for you. Direct primary care is a solution like that. There are some non-traditional things like health shares, which are effective for some small employers. So think about what it is that you need, find an advisor that you like and you're philosophically aligned with, and then just move forward from there.
Okay. So what I hear you saying that there are so many options and creative ways to be able to provide this coverage, right? So you say, tell me this again, the difference between health insurance and health care coverage, right? So
healthcare is healthcare, right? I need to go to the doctor. I did something to my foot a few months ago, and I have to go be seen, and I have some follow up. I had some X-rays to do. That's healthcare, right? That is, I have a problem and I need a service. That is healthcare. How that gets paid for is health insurance, right? So if it's a small thing, maybe I'm paying cash. Maybe I have a copay on my health plan, right? And for a larger thing, then there's health insurance. Let's say I needed to have my foot operated on. That would be a little bit more expensive. That would be something where insurance would kick in, right? So what of that can you move out of your health insurance premium, pay for it in a fixed and or lower cost way to help control that budget? It's thinking about how you can make it work for you, because the rate is the rate. So what do you do with these plans? How do you help people not be terrified by a very high deductible? 56% of people only go to the doctor when this is my paraphrase, think they're going to die because they're afraid of what it costs. They're afraid of all the aggravation. And I think it's a valid concern. So how do we make it easier for people to use?
Yeah. Okay. That makes so much sense. Tell me some of the clients that you've worked with, what that would look like for a very, what's the minimum, or I would say the lowest amount of employees and revenue that a business has generated that have used you or had entry level healthcare coverage or insurance, I should say, for their employees?
So most of our clients are in the 100 to 500 life space, but we do have a friends and family plan. So smaller clients are referred to us.
Okay.
So we have clients as small as 2 and as high as 3,200.
Okay.
But the bulk of that is 100 to 500.
Okay. So someone who has as little as 2 employees can definitely participate.
But when you're at a very small employer with 2 employees on a plan, it kind of is what it is. There's not a lot you can do to manage the risk because there's only 2 people.
Right.
So there are some things, health reimbursement strategy, and we have a question about that. So I'm going to circle back about it.
Okay.
Using direct primary care, using on-demand urgent care. Those are all things any employer can use, any. right? It's just a matter of how you build that into your plan. But I want to answer Victoria's question about the health reimbursement strategy. So the health reimbursement strategy, we use it quite a lot. And what we have done, and I'll give you an example for one of our clients last year, and they had a terrible year. They had some very expensive drugs and a couple of very expensive illnesses, and their health insurance increase was 94%. That's a lot, right? That's no employer can tolerate that, right?
Mhm.
So we did a couple of things, but for one of their entities, because this is a multiple entity organization, we increased their deductible from $2,000 to $5,000, cutting their premium increase significantly.
Okay.
By doing that, we got their premium increase down to about 40%, which I know doesn't sound great, but it's certainly better than the 94. Got that rate increase down to 40%, and then we moved them. We use that $5,000 deductible plan, but we have something called an HRA, a health reimbursement account, in place so that if anybody spends more than $2,000 towards of their deductible, they submit those to the TPA, and the TPA reimburses them for anything over the $2,000. So this employer has about 108, 110 people on their plan. We have used it 3 times this year, and we have not spent even $7,000 or $8,000 yet. So this was a significant win for them. But
Wow.
we've done that. We do that with small employers too. We have a couple of employers in the 8 to 10 life space, and we've increased their deductible as well. And that gives them a little room to see what options become available the next year, or if there's another lever that they can pull, but it allows them to keep their premium contributions the same and not penalize their employees. They can often avoid passing any of the cost on to an employee, and maybe they'll pay it for 1 or 2 employees. Maybe, probably not.
Okay.
So, and you're only paying it if the expense is incurred and filed.
Okay. Thank you so much for your question, Victoria. I apologize. I didn't see your question. So thank you for pointing that out, Allison. And please, if there's a follow-up question, Victoria, please feel free to answer, to put that in the chat. So we do welcome your questions. Time is for you. Any question that you have, please put it in the comment section, and we will definitely get to your question. Okay. What are the most important things to consider when searching healthcare plans, in terms of, you talked about what your employee makeup is, right? Do you have a lot of moms with children? Is there anything else that you want a small business to know?
So who is your employee? Are they moms with small children? Do you run a manufacturing facility with a mostly male population? Because they need to be communicated with in a little bit of a different way. As an employer, are you much more comfortable with a big name brand insurance company? If you are, that's totally okay. That's going to cost you a little more. Are you willing to introduce a strategy like the HRA and have a conversation with your employees about why you're doing that? And the longer I do this, the more I think that is important. Most employers, our clients certainly, will always tell me something like this: look, we spend a lot of money on health insurance. We spend a lot of time trying to make this work. It doesn't seem to be working for anybody. Yes, we'd like to spend less money, but could it be more effective first? I mean, and nobody wants to overpay, right? But so often what we hear is not, can it be cheaper? Can it be cheaper? Can it be cheaper? It's, can it work better? Can it work better? Why is it that we spend this much money and we have $5,000 deductibles and we don't have any copays, and we can't do this and we can't do that? There are answers to those questions. And it does require looking at it a little bit differently. But if that's not for you, that's okay. Maybe you decide you want to take a little bit more risk and you want to use an HRA strategy, or maybe you want to design your plan so that you can integrate something called direct primary care. And direct primary care means you have basically an old-fashioned doctor who you can call and you can go see on demand, and they can really take care of about 80% of your medical needs. So if you have your femur sticking out your leg or you're having a heart attack, you still need to go to the emergency room.
Right.
But if you have a cold, if you have a flu, if you have this weird rash on your arm, you can call your doctor and your doctor can take care of that. It is, most people think it's too good to be true. It's not. It can be incredibly valuable, and it can be an incredible way to contain costs. From our larger group clients, when we compare what the people who use a direct primary care physician spend in terms of claims and what the people that don't spend, these people that use a direct primary care physician, their claims are often 25 to 66% of a non-DPC person. I mean, it's a dramatic change. So think about that. Are you willing? There's an insurance company. It was started in Texas. It's in a few states now. That if you do a baseline visit, if you're a member and you do a baseline visit, all your care is covered at 100%. Are you willing to talk to your employees and ask them to do that? Their premiums have been running very well. And we have a client, we moved to this particular company. It was 3% less than their current plan that had a $5,000 deductible. They now have this plan. Everybody does their baseline visit. I will tell you, with 95% adherence to doing the baseline visit, and they have a few people they have to call and say, hey, if you don't do this, then you have a $5,000 deductible. People hear that, then they're like, wait, I just have to call. It's about 20 or 30 minutes. They make sure that your medications get transferred, that they know who your doctors are, that you know how to make an appointment with your doctor, and then they cover everything at 100%. This particular employer, 3% less total budget. They pay 100% of the premium for all tiers: employee, employee child, employee spouse, and family.
Wow.
And everybody in the household has 100% coverage. It is such a good recruiting tool for them.
Wow.
It's wonderful. Are you willing to look at something like that? It's new. It's
Okay.
well funded. They've got lots of runway. They're growing like weeds. And but it is a little bit less traditional. Are you willing to do a level funded product where if you don't spend all of your claims money, you keep some of that? Are you having those conversations with your advisor?
Okay. There's so much out there. That's amazing. And like you said, that is an amazing recruiting tool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think business owners in general, I mean, and that you've talked to, think about healthcare insurance as a recruiting tool? How much do you hear in terms of, that being, a focus for a lot of business owners?
I think in the macro, it is a focus for the business owner, but not in the micro.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes if a business owner or business leader focused a little bit more on how this operated. I mean, health insurance for most employers is a second or third line item expense, right?
Yeah.
Right after labor. So you thought, well, maybe we could do something else, then maybe you can get a different result. And often I hear, just get it to budget and we don't care. We just need this to be to budget, and we need no noise, or we need white noise, and that's okay. But at what point is that no longer sustainable? And we hear a lot more that we just can't continue to do this. We can't continue to do this. We can't continue to do this.
Yeah. Wow. Do you think a lot of micro business owners are get into a quandary because they are looking at the macro business owners and thinking that they have to duplicate the way they do things, or they don't do anything at all because they know that they can't duplicate the way they do things?
I think both. I think Some people think that we just have to offer this traditional plan. That's what we have to do, and that's okay. That may be right for you. I don't want to
Mhm.
say that it's not.
Right.
And other people say, well, I'm never entering this market, and we're just not going to do it at all. There's a middle somewhere there.
Mhm.
Um, and your needs may change. You may be a small business that, everybody's married and they get their health insurance from their spouse. Well, then maybe you don't need to deal with this at all. And that's
Mhm.
okay too. But if you're looking for talent and your wage is competitive and you don't offer health insurance, that's a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see? Let's see, we're talking about the micro business owner that they make when it comes to choosing health insurance.
I think they're often shown just a couple of fully insured options and nothing else. Or they're shown a couple of options with no shade variation, right? So no HRA strategy, no on-demand urgent care, no direct primary care, nothing that will kind of help bend the plan to work a little bit better for them. Or they think they can't participate in those options at all, and that's not true either. I also think that health insurance is simply a financial risk transfer.
Mhm.
That's it. Healthcare is healthcare. This is financing healthcare. It's
Mhm.
very different. And I think even mid-size and large employers often don't think about it like that.
Mhm.
And I think when you think about it, okay, well, healthcare is healthcare. That's right. A provider and a patient, right? That's healthcare. How we pay for things is risk transfer.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that. I think most business owners are very good at risk transfer. They transfer risk in or out every day.
Yep. Exactly.
So think about health insurance like you think about risk transfer for everything else.
Interesting. I love that. I love that. Tell me what should a business look for? What questions should they be asking for a an advisor like yourself? So they a consultant, healthcare coverage consultant.
So um, most small employers just they have a friend that does it or they know somebody that they know somebody. And for the most part, that's okay. But if you are looking for direct primary care, ask about it. How can we integrate direct primary care? Can we integrate a health reimbursement strategy? Is a health share right for us? Is an ICRA right for us? And if you get good answers, right? Well, this is what an ICRA is. Here's the pros and cons. This is what I think. Is a health reimbursement strategy right for us? Is direct primary care right for us? Your advisor should be conversant in all of those subjects, right? They're not going to necessarily be doing all of the things, but they should be aware of how they work and what that looks like for you. And they may have a different opinion of if it should be for you or not. You are the employer and you should decide.
Okay. Well, I want to back up a little bit. I want to think about someone who um, is watching who has never delved into this arena before, right? So they don't know what they don't know, right? So
Mhm.
when shopping for an advisor, if we could back up, like what are some of those? Because those terms, I didn't know. Some of those terms, I didn't know what you're talking about. So what is some of the?
So maybe the question is, are there any non-traditional things that we can do? And if the
Okay,
answer is no, and you don't like what you're seeing, then you should find somebody else. But if the answer is, well, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this,
yeah,
then continue the conversation.
okay. Because
So,
I would imagine there might be you have sometimes I'm going to kind of liken this to insurance agents, right? Where, and I know you're not an agent, but they may have certain products, or you've heard of financial planners that may have certain products that they are trying to
mhm.
promote to clients. And I would imagine that might be for some consultants the same type of thing.
I think so. I think
Okay.
that, we're pretty independent. We do some large carrier business, but not a lot.
Okay.
But we have our 2 or 3 people or 2 or 3 companies for every service that we offer, right? Because the reality is you have to know how to work with an entity, right? So working with 100 is maybe not the best thing, but working with one or two is not the best thing either.
Okay.
Right? You need fully insured, you need level funded, you need self-funded, you need the things that support all of that. Compliance is very important nowadays. There are some requirements that apply to small employers as well. So GAD clause attestation, RxDC reporting, worker comp disclosures, that applies to small employers also. Mental
Okay.
health parity applies to all employers. You know, those are, I think it's particularly small employers have so many, they wear so many hats and they have so many things going on that it's hard to know everything that you need to ask.
Yes,
Right. So
for
the other
sure.
thing that I want to mention is to provide an accurate proposal for an employer. We're going to ask for any advisor is going to ask for a fair amount of information. We're not asking because we like it. We're asking because we need it. So when we say we need this for employees' independence and we need this and we need this and we need this, we really do. And typically you'll find and then an advisor won't start marketing until they have everything that they need. Because if you need a renewal letter and you're submitting a case without a renewal letter, the vendors typically will say, we're not going to look at it until we have the renewal letter. If you're sending in a census, you have people that have dependents on the plan, but you don't know who the dependents are, your rate's going to be inaccurate.
Okay. So that's a great a thing that you bring up. So if someone has not, you have an employer who either has not provided any insurance before, or maybe they are looking at not providing the coverage because they can't afford it. Like, what are the things that they need to line up, right? Start gathering. What is the information that a typical advisor would ask for?
So they're going to ask for demographic information. So what's the name of the company? What's the tax ID? What's the fiscal year? How many employees do you have? What is the structure? Are you an LLC? Are you an S corp? Are you a C corp? What are you? Right? What's your address? What's your phone number? Those kind of basic things. If you have insurance or not, right? So those kind of basic things. Plus, they will ask for a census, and the census is going to require a fair amount of information, and it is going to require any dependent information as well. And that is where a lot of employers get caught up if they don't have insurance or they're not using an online platform to enroll, because then you have to go ask for the dependent information. Whereas if you're a little bit bigger and you have or you're currently insured, you should be using an online enrollment platform. You can just pull the data out of there.
Right.
So that's a little bit easier. But those couple of things, if you have insurance, current rates, summary of benefits and coverages, and your renewal rates. I know a lot of small businesses have renewals on December 1 and January 1. So the December ones, the renewals came out in the end of September, early part of October. And if you're a January 1 renewal, your renewal released next week or the week after. Nobody can start marketing your case until we've got that letter. So it's important. We're not asking to be a pain. We have to provide it. So we're going to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad though that you're talking about this, because it's just one of those things that we have to do as business owners, is make the time to gather the information needed, so that we can get the best information and outcomes in terms of what plans that the business owners have access to. So
right.
So okay, business owners, you got to make the time if you have not. And this is a great time. Like, even I'm thinking, maybe right now is not the time, but how can you start to gather demographic information for dependents? That's something that, people may not think about until they're ready. So what are those things that you can do right now? So I think this is really the back of the room type information, which could be a barrier for business owners that don't, feel like they have the time or that they have to make the time. So this is really good. I want to switch gears a little bit to get information about your new documentary. It's not persona, it's just healthcare. I'd love to hear about what that's about and where we can watch that.
So I will send you a link so people can watch that. But it's a little over an hour, and it talks about what is happening between health insurance and healthcare, and how misaligned the incentives are, and how profitable health insurance companies are. They're not profitable by accident. They are very intentionally profitable. And in all fairness, these are public corporations. Their obligation is to make money.
Yep.
But as an employer, it is your obligation to know where your money is going. And I think this does a really good job of showing how, just because a facility is nonprofit doesn't mean that they're not making an extraordinary amount of money. It doesn't mean they're not suing people who are not paying their bills. It doesn't mean that they're not colluding with insurance companies to change pricing or to not offer fair pricing. Those things happen all the time. For prescriptions. And I know prescriptions have been the whipping boy for the last couple of years. And it's now coming to a head in Congress. And you're seeing, heads of PBMs just saying, no, not coming. Well, there is so much obfuscation in the pharmacy benefit manager business. Those are the entities that manage prescription coverage in a health plan, that it's untenable. We're seeing drugs that on a health plan are $500, $600, $800, $1,200, that when we change the contracting, we simply change the language of the contracting, we're cutting costs by 25 to 40%. Wow. We're getting drugs internationally from a tier 1 country for 15, 25, 40% of what it costs in the United States. Wow. And I think we as a society need to have a conversation about that. But the savvy, forward-thinking employers are leveraging those strategies to benefit themselves. And small employers are always at a disadvantage there, but you still can do some things to help contain your costs and get people a plan that they can use. And I think that's the biggest thing, is if you give a rank and file employee who's making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year a plan with a $5,000 deductible, you have just effectively uninsured them.
Yep, for sure. Wow. There is so much that we can learn. And I think this is so important because, as you know, NABO, we are an advocacy organization. And so I think these are the things that is really important for us to stay abreast on, and the ways that healthcare is affecting women business owners, specifically because we're NABO, but how does that affect business owners, and how, what kind of conversations do we need to have with our representatives? So yes, I would love for you to send me the link. I will post the link to the documentary if any one of you are interested in watching that and getting educated on the state of our healthcare. It's such a long conversation that that gets pretty intense, and it's really important that we educate ourselves about what we need to be talking about as citizens in healthcare and as business owners as well. So I love that. Okay. So, here we go. Cynthia's got a sign off here. She says, I strongly recommend that everyone watch Alison's documentary. It is eye-opening. So thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Cynthia.
That testimonial. So we will definitely post that here for everyone, and making sure, especially our NABO members, we will post that everywhere to make sure you have access to that. And if you're not a NABO member, you will get it right here under this in the comments once we get that. So Thank you so much. Okay, Allison, is there anything else that you really want micro business owners to know about healthcare insurance? What do you want them? What's the takeaway?
I I really want to talk about the difference between healthcare and health insurance. Those are two wildly different things, and I think for many years we have conflagrated the two.
Mhm,
And just because you are on or not on a health insurance plan doesn't mean you can or cannot get care.
mhm.
Healthcare is healthcare. Sometimes it's better to pay cash. There are a lot of instances where paying cash is much less expensive. I had an imaging test last week. The PPO price was almost $300 and I paid 105. So sometimes it's better to pay cash.
Okay. And that's normally something that that's counterintuitive, because we
Yes,
think there's no way. That's why I need health insurance because I can't
correct.
pay cash is the
And
assumption.
and and you need health insurance. If you get
Yeah.
run over by a bus, if you have a cancer diagnosis, if you have a heart attack, you need health insurance.
Yeah.
But for every day, sometimes it's better to pay cash.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so very much for all the things that you shared. And you have your email address if anyone wants to contact you. What are any other ways that people can learn more about what you do and how to contact you?
So my email address is here, so you're welcome to reach out to me via email. I'm on LinkedIn also. We push out a fair amount of content every week talking about health insurance and healthcare and how to make it work a little bit better for you every week. And I'm reachable on either platform, and I'd love to help.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you again, Allison. This has been very eye-opening.
Well,
And I'm
thank
hoping for, those of you who are watching the micro businesses, if you thought, oh gosh, there's no way that I can provide healthcare insurance, and that you did not know the difference between healthcare and healthcare insurance, and the creative ways that you can have access and provide access to your employers. I hope this has been valuable for you. Please reach out to Allison and look her up on LinkedIn. Yes, and you do have a podcast. I'm assuming that can be listened to any podcast platform.
Any podcast platform, and they're on our website too.
Awesome. So your podcast is Raising the Bar. So look her up. She is, I mean, I have felt your passion, and anybody who creates a documentary and puts all the information out that you do is passionate about this. I think I can be confident in saying that you are really passionate about this. So thank you again. I so appreciate you taking your time to educate us, and have an amazing day. Thanks for watching, and please keep if you have comments, questions, love your comments, and share this out. Share this out to all of your counterparts, business owners. Share this out so that they can have access to this information as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.